What's going on, YouTube? And welcome back here to another day in Walt Disney World here on the Minecraft MC Magic server. And today we are going to have a little bit of a different video. So, there's been a lot going on in the entire Disney company, but specifically Walt Disney World. And I wanted to kind of reflect on that here today. We're going to talk about some stuff. We're going to talk about how I think Disney can bring back the magic in Walt Disney World. So, over the last, really since I think 2020 is the baseline of where things really started to turn around. You go back to Walt Disney World in 2019 and how different it was from today. It is quite a bit different. And I want to preface that I have no stake in this game. I'm not somebody that is looking to attack Disney, but I think criticism is a fair assessment of what I'm going to give today. And I think most of these things, most of you would actually agree with. And I think the biggest thing for Walt Disney World in particular right now is it doesn't feel like you're getting good value. I think a lot of people have been throwing that kind of statement around, and that's quite a bold statement to throw. And I'm not disagreeing with it. I'm going to agree with it today. So we're going to look for ways right off the bat, how can we add value again to your trip to Walt Disney World? We're going to be talking about benefits of staying at the resorts. What are some of the benefits that Disney could implement? Because the easy thing is to just go back in time and do what Disney used to do. But the reality is you can't go back in time and do that. We have to move forward with what Disney's already done. So we're going to keep that in mind here. So as much as I'd like to bring back everything that used to be Walt Disney World, it's really not attainable. It's going to have to be something where we have to meet a happy medium and find a way to work around and navigate what's already been there. And that's kind of difficult to do sometimes, but we're going to try and do that here. So we're going to start off with the first thing. And speaking of making things magical, I think this is a layup. Let's bring back Magical Express. And the reason I say that, this is one of the few things that would make so many people happy to have back. And there's a lot of reasons that Disney brought in Magical Express from the beginning. You have to remember when Michael Eisner brought in the whole Magical Express, you basically, if you're not familiar with Magical Express, basically it takes you from MCO, which is Orlando Airport, and it's basically a bus shuttle themed around Disney. It had these little mini screens on the back of each seat, and it would allow you to actually watch kind of a welcome to Disney video, and it instantly brought you into the magic of going to the parks. And there's a couple of reasons that Disney did this. I mean, as much as Eisner did things a certain way, there was a slightly more sinister reason for why he did this. And the reason for that is he wanted to make sure that people who were coming to Disney from wherever across the United States, across countries, that they were going to put themselves in the bubble of the Disney experience. So if people were going to be having this shuttle service, well, then they wouldn't need necessarily to get a car and rent a car that would take them off property and kind of exposes them to all the other things that are around the Orlando, Florida area that there is to offer. If they don't have a vehicle and they have no incentive to have a vehicle, well, that means they're going to spend more time at Disney Springs. They're going to spend maybe another day or two at the parks. And that's exactly what Michael Eisner wanted. And that's why he kept adding parks and making experiences like Disney Springs and Disney MGM Studios. Is he wanted to find ways to get people to stay longer. And you could argue that today Disney kind of is at that peak of like a week-long trip, and there are some people that go 10 to 14 days or sometimes even longer than that. But with how expensive it is, it's quite difficult to go for 14 days on a Disney trip, but people do it. And I think what we have to remember with Magical Express, it not only helped Disney because of the whole aspect of, well, you're keeping these people here, and especially now with things like, Epic Universe coming into the fold, it really would have helped Disney to have something like Magical Express, because it would probably make people decide, would it be enough to keep people from getting a rental car to see Epic Universe? Or were they going to go to and do that anyway, right? Like, there's a couple of different ways to kind of look at it. I'm just going to bring down my render a little bit. It's definitely a little bit buggy right now. So that's something to keep in mind. So that's the first point, and I think that's a really good way to start because of the fact, obviously, that, this is a magical thing that people feel like got lost. And I think what's more frustrating is the pricing has skyrocketed so much, way faster than the rate of inflation, and they're taking away things like Magical Express that were free before. So I think that's a really frustrating thing for a lot of people, especially when you consider the context of what's been going on since 2020 and, kind of the economic climate, since 2020. It's definitely taken a big chunk out of people with Disney's approach. And that's why the next thing we're going to talk about here is, so anyone that is staying at a Disney resort, and maybe this includes the Swan and Dolphin Hotel, 10% discount on every single purchase. Now, in the reality of things, is 10% really going to make or break people? Probably not. But it's kind of like Magical Express. It makes the customer feel like they're winning. It makes the customer feel like they're getting some sort of benefit for staying on property compared to not staying on property. You wouldn't have gotten that 10% discount, which, in essence, might make the public consider, you know what, we get that 10% discount. We'll get an extra snack. We'll get that extra popcorn bucket. And they might end up spending the same amount of money because psychologically they have in their head that they have that 10% banked and saved from their resort discount, right? And that's really something that Disney could use to their advantage. They kind of do that already with the resorts, except I think they just so overprice the resorts that you look at 25% discount and you kind of look at the market of everything else around it and you think, that's kind of expensive compared to their competition, right? Like, if you keep the prices of everything already in the resort the same and the 10% discount, Disney's still going to make a lot of money. You're going to have the customer satisfaction. Even if it goes up a little bit, it lets people feel like they're winning somewhere. They're getting something out of it that somebody that's not staying on property wouldn't. And that's kind of what we're tackling here, is the people that are at the resort. Right off the bat, these are two benefits for people staying at the resort. Give people a reason to stay at your resort and not some random Orlando hotel or some random hotel that's maybe just off property. Those are the things that are going to be selling points for Disney. Because we're coming to a world soon where people might start staying at Universal's hotels, staying at their resorts, and spending a couple days at Disney, getting the Disney quote-unquote park experience without paying the prices of a resort. And I think when that day comes, that's going to be the wake-up call that maybe Disney decides to start doing and implementing things like this. So we'll see what happens, but I find that to be an interesting kind of argument to make. So that's the first thing. The second thing, house cleaning every day. This is the next one we're going to go to. Again, it goes back to feeling like you're winning. This was something that Disney before COVID had. They always had somebody coming every single day, the sheets, to kind of clean up around the resort room. Again, things that were taken away, yet you're raising the prices. You can't do that on every single thing. People notice these things. People notice when Disney stopped doing that. So we're going to bring that back. Kind of a quick and easy one. I think this is one we don't really have to spend that much time on. And now this one is a little bit more of this is a longer term thing. And this is a perfect spot for us to discuss this topic because recently Epcot's new sort of future world, or whatever they're calling this now, the Festival Center area, really lacks the depth and theming of what we're used to in Walt Disney World. So the idea that we could have more theming in the resorts, in the parks, because I can tell you right now, this building is unacceptable. This building is really the epitome of kind of what's been kind of wrong with Disney recently. This is not good. This is not enough. People want to see more than this. This is a very blank, very sterile environment. This is not Disney. You remember what the Disney store used to be in Disney Springs? That's what you should be expecting from all of these types of buildings, and that is absolutely not the case here. I love that they have all the flags of the different areas here, but it's quite meaningless when it's the only thing that's actually in here. It's really, really sad and really depressing. And I remember when this area opened, this little, oh, this is cool. They have some of the stuff for the, I guess this is the Flower and Garden, or maybe this is the Festival of the Arts. This area just lacks any sort of creativity. Oh, they actually finished the Moana thing. Maybe we could do that later. I didn't know they finished that. It just really, I mean, this area, it looks like there's just a bunch of like dead tree stumps. I don't really understand what this whole thing is. It's just really lacking creativity. That's the best way I can describe it. Disney needs to add more character influence in these areas. And I love this statue of Walt here, but like it's just missing so much beyond that. And even like this area on this side, like the Connections Cafe, like this whole area just, it's missing the Disney-ness. This looks like an Apple store that, the Starbucks logo, kind of slammed on there. Like, it's just really, really sad. And I think they did a slightly better job with the what's it called? The brand new resort, the Island Tower at the Polynesian Resort. I think they made slight improvements in there. And they recently redid the Pop Century food court, and it actually looks really nice. So Disney does go into that well a little bit. They're still able to tap into that. Well, let's be honest, at Pop Century, it's definitely a cheaper theming, kitschy thing, so it's easy for Disney to kind of theme that up. I wish they did more even of that in here. They're just such a sterile feeling and cold feeling that just does not invoke that Disney that we're so used to. And that's why I'm glad we got to Epcot for this one, because I think that's the perfect example of that, especially recently for Disney. Okay, so we're done with that one. So this one is, I guess this is a good example also of more seasonal theming. In the Michael Eisner era, Disney used to have a lot of things that were, you could only see it this summer. Like, I remember they had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. For this summer only, in 1994, come see the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Streets of America, right? If you only went to Disney in that 6 to 8 month span, that was the only time you could see it. So it forced you to keep coming back for more. this was something new that wasn't there normally. Or by the time you came back, it would be, maybe we get to see Muppets on Location, Days of Swine and Roses for this summer only at the Disney MGM Studios. Those were the things that you could only do in a short amount of time, which hence would keep locals coming back, hence would make people that were really hardcore want to come back. And I think a sort of template for this is what we see here in Epcot, which is the festivals. They've got the seasonal festivals. It gives you a reason to come back. It gives you things to look forward to each and every year that doesn't involve a huge attraction, but it does give you something new to do. And if you've been to Disney, maybe each year, if you're one of those people that, loves to come at Christmas time, maybe you want to come, say, in the spring because you want to see the festival of the arts or the Flower and Garden Festival. It gives you reasons to come back to Disney at different times. So this is a really good example of that. This is another one. Let's head over to Disney's Hollywood Studios for this one, because I think this one in particular works really well at the studios, and that is, we obviously now have the new Christmas ticketed event at Disney's Hollywood Studios, Jollywood Nights. Let's see a version of something similar to that, but for Halloween. I think there's a lot of ways Disney could implement Halloween in Disney's Hollywood Studios. They still have some of the tinsel garland up. Interesting. But I think that is really an easy way for Disney to kind of market other holidays. Like, even I think about another holiday like Valentine's. Disneyland actually does a night event for Valentine's, like Valentine's themed hard ticket events, right? Why can't, say, Hollywood Studios or Magic Kingdom do something similar to that? I think that would be really cool. And maybe it's only like 3 or 4 Fridays a year, right? Like you have the 4 Fridays in February come to Disney World for this Valentine's event, right? And you've got maybe some exclusive food, kind of similar to Jollywood Nights. You've got the characters, right? Maybe you've got a lot of the princesses with their princes, which they kind of do already. And maybe some kind of overlay of the attractions. I'm not really sure what you could do, but that's where you get your creativity juices flowing, right? And you make a Valentine's event at Walt Disney World. I think that would be another easy way for Disney to kind of make hard ticket events. They're making money that way, right? Now, this is one that really hits home because I think Disney has been taking away a lot of things without adding things recently. That's been one of Disney's recent trends. And we're going to start back here by Muppets because I think this is a really good example of that. There is so much that Disney needs to add to Hollywood Studios. Like, as soon as the park opened, Disney was already looking to make additions to the park. And, Muppet Studios was a massive expansion back in the day. Like, they needed to add as much capacity as possible because they had the Backlot Tour and Great Movie Ride. That was pretty much it for attractions. Then they started adding, Sunset Showcase and Tower of Terror, Rock and Roller Coaster, all this stuff. That all got added because the capacity, like, they just didn't have enough park for people to go. Hollywood Studios is really kind of similar in that regard. And I think the philosophy of Disney has to change a little bit because it seems like their philosophy is, we don't want to add more cost and maintenance and, raising the electric bill per se to add more attractions. They'd rather keep the same amount of attractions and capacity and just switching out attractions that they already have. The mindset of that is very, very much an issue, especially right now, because you look at what's going on with Animation Courtyard, how they have a completely vacant building where the executive offices are, and they're not touching that, and yet they're taking away a beloved attraction and area in Muppets. And as much as you can sell me that the Muppets aren't as popular as they used to be and all of that stuff, besides the point, you have a completely vacant area that Disney did think about changing, but they decided on the option that was going to, let's be honest, be less work. Because if they do take this animation courtyard area, it involves probably taking out the entire animation building, which used to be where Disney Animation used to be. They have to take down that entire building back here and bulldoze it. Disney probably doesn't want to do that. That takes too much work. So they went with the cheaper option. And I'm trying not to be super negative here, but let's be honest, right? Like, this area would be much better served for that door coaster. And then you're adding an attraction compared to this whatever animation courtyard is now. Right? Like, this thing, as much as I love the history of this building, I love the kind of the backstory to it. Like, this is a very much a shell of its former self. Very, very much. And, you know, if I was able to fly up and show you, I would. There's a lot of real estate back here. So we're talking about this entire area. You got this thing. I know they're putting the Voyage of the Little Mermaid there. Get rid of this thing. Get rid of Disney Junior. You know, put Harry Hazen's there. Put a playground here, and then you've got your door coaster, and boom, you've got your mini Monsters Land instead of taking the Muppets area. Because I think a lot of people see what Disney's doing with that. They understand this is the cheaper option of what they're doing. Instead of doing the right thing, they're doing the financially or fiscally responsible thing. And those things don't always align. And I think Disney is definitely falling victim to that, especially in that circumstance. And that mindset is really going to burn Disney if they think that way for every single time they have to make a decision here. So that's my next rant. And let's end it with this one. And that is adding a new park. And I think this kind of delves into what I just talked about. Disney keeps adding all of these resorts, right? You look at what they've added really over the last, let's say 5 years. I'm going to look it up just so I have the exact number, because Disney has added so many resorts over the years. So let's take a look. So, apologies for that, guys. So we've got the Contemporary, the Polynesian Village Resort, Fort Wilderness, all those, right? All the, let's just say the ones that are definitely more the more well-known ones that have been around for a while. So let's just take a look. So 2027, you've got the Disney Lakeshore Lodge, the Swan Reserve, that opened in 2021. The Riviera Resort, 2019. Grandistina Tower at Coronado Springs, 2019. So, going back to, let's just go back. Let's go back 10 years. Let's go back to 2015. You have Polynesian Villas and Bungalows, 2015. Copper Creek Villas and Cabins at the Wilderness Lodge, 2017. Grandistino Tower, Riviera Resort, Swan Reserve, and Lakeshore Lodge, which technically hasn't opened yet. That's going to be in 2027. But let's just not even including that. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You have 5 new resorts in the past 10 years. And Disney doesn't have really that much more capacity in terms of expansion than they had then. So Disney has to make more rides, more attractions, because as much as the Disney community, maybe a lot of people are kind of falling out of favor with Disney, there is still a lot of people that come around the world to Disney World. And I think this is a more sinister way to look at it, and I hope this isn't the case, but I think it sort of is, this dovetails into the last thing we are going to talk about today. And that is Disney's mentality on attractions. You look at the recent attractions that are closing in 2025. This is a really good example of this. Disney closed Muppet Vision. Disney closed It's Tough to Be a Bug. Those attractions closed, okay? Those attractions closed. Why? Well, yeah, they're 3D movies. Yes, they are falling out of favor a little bit. Yes, but people still go to see those. They still go to those areas seeking those things out. Well, what's the outlier here? Maybe why they would look to move on from specifically movie shows or 3D movie shows. Because you can't sell lightning lanes. And if Disney has this mindset that they constantly need to have that mindset of we need to sell lightning lanes, and their mindset is we are replacing Muppets, a 3D show, to get a roller coaster which is going to be all about lightning lane, that is going to put Disney in a lot of trouble. Because if that's the mentality, we were just talking about all the 5 resorts they've added in the past decade, and a 6th one coming in 2027. Every 2 years, basically, they are adding a new resort. With how many rooms and how many new guests without adding capacity. And in fact, for Muppet Vision, actually taking away capacity. You could get more people through per hour at Muppet Vision than you're going to get on the Door Coaster when it comes in 2027, 2028. Disney's actually losing capacity after this area opens. That's concerning. That is something that Disney really has to watch out for. Because if that's the mentality they're going to have for everything, this is taking away the Disney edge. That is going to take away what makes Disney so great. You really have to be careful with how you handle this. And like I said, I want to think the best for Disney. I want to see them succeed. I want them to be the version that we all remember, the version of Disney that we all fell in love with. But the problem is, you are really pushing people away. And I can tell you right now, personally, when I went in 2024, nope, scratch that, 2023. I went to Disney World in 2023, and there was a lot of things going on then. And there was a lot of criticism, and I was very hesitant to go back to the parks because I hadn't been back since 2018. It had been 5 years. It had been after COVID, after all that stuff, that I was going back to Disney. And I had the best week at Walt Disney World I'd ever had. And that was after COVID, mind you. Now, I had everything scheduled. I had everything planned 60 days out. We went to all the places we wanted to go. We did all the things we wanted to do. But now in 2025, in terms of finances, I have been blocked out. Financially, I have been blocked out of Disney World. And on top of that, this year I wanted to go back. But by the time I go, Muppet Vision will close. It's Tough to Be a Bug is going to close. Dino Land already closed. What is my incentive to go right now? And that was a really tough conversation I had to have with myself, because I have been waiting it's been a year now since I said I was coming back. And I knew the second I came back from my trip in 2023, I wanted to come back to Disney World. But here today, in now February of 2025, 10 months from me wanting to come back, I already know I won't be coming back this year. And with the raising of the prices and the loss of really Muppet Vision really hurts me. That is my favorite attraction in all of Walt Disney World. And I'm looking at the landscape today compared to what it used to be. I really miss the backlot tour. I'm not a big fan of Star Wars. I'm not a big fan of Moana. I'm not a big fan of the direction Disney's going in today. And I had to make a really, really hard decision for myself to say, I won't be going to Disney this year. And I think Disney's going to have that happen to a lot of people. And maybe my story isn't the exact story a lot of people have, right? People have different circumstances and things like that. But maybe instead of going to Disney World, they say, they're getting rid of Muppets. I kind of want to check out what they got going on at Universal. They have a brand new park, right? I want to see what they got going on there. And people might go there instead. So either they're canceling their trip altogether, not going down to Orlando, or they're going to cancel their Disney trip so that way they could go over to Universal. It's going to be really interesting. I'm really going to be keeping an eye on the numbers at Disney this year, specifically Walt Disney World. But I'm really disappointed with how things have kind of gone with Disney. And like I said, I really want to be optimistic. I want to go back so badly. The magic I had from that trip in 2023 gave me hope for Disney. But every corner I turn, there's another thing that's kind of becoming a roadblock that just makes it more difficult for me to get back there. And gives me less of a reason to want to go back there. And that's really a shame. So I figured I'd make this video. Some people are probably going to disagree with me, and that's okay. Some people might agree with me, and I'd love to know your thoughts down below, because at the end of the day, I'm only one person. I'd love to know what everybody else has on their mind. Is it similar? Do you feel a similar sentiment? Let me know what you think down below, because I would like to know your guys' thoughts on just everything right now with Disney and the direction they're going in, because I am a little bit concerned about what's going to happen and the operations of the parks right now. It's going to be an interesting year for 2025, but I'd love to know your guys' thoughts. Thank you so much for watching today's video. Make sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again next time.